What's up, everyone? Bob's Blu-rays here, and today I'm going to be dropping a video talking about physical media. I'm going to be discussing my journey into collecting physical media, where it started, where it is today, things like that, talking about the future of my collection in physical media. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope you stay tuned, and I'll get into it right after this intro. All right, everyone. Like I said, I'm going to be discussing kind of where my journey started into collecting physical media, how it started, and just where it is today. So this might be a long video. I never know how long or short my videos will be, but let's try and start from the very beginning. Where should I start? Okay, so I probably started collecting physical media VHS. So I was born in 91. My dad was always a big movie buff. He got me into collecting movies from a young age. So the first real memory I have, and I've discussed this 1,000 times, but anybody new or doesn't know the story already, the first real memory I have with movies was probably Anaconda. I think it came out in April of 97, which would have made me 5 years old at that time because my birthday wasn't until July. So I was five and a half, whatever. But my dad took us to go see Anaconda. And so that was my first like adult movie. That wasn't like a kid's movie that I remember. I don't even really remember seeing kids movies in theaters. Maybe Lion King, Toy Story. Did that come out before? That came out in like 95, right? So maybe I think I saw those in theaters. I'm pretty sure I did, but I was 3, 4, so it's pretty hard to remember those. So I always kind of go back to Anaconda because I could actually remember that. And then I saw Blade. That was my first R-rated movie. That was 98, and I was 7. And at that time, and I think still the rules today, you technically have to be 7 years old and accompanied by an adult to go into a movie theater, rated R movie. So that was kind of like my birthday present. That was August of 98, I believe. And yeah, so that was exciting. And my dad was always a VHS collector. At that time in the 90s, VHS was a big thing. So I got into collecting VHS because of him. We had a lot of the same VHS tapes. My dad still to this day calls them tapes. When he comes into my room or looks at my collection or anything like that, he's like, "You got all those tapes?" But yeah, so he had a lot of VHS, and then for Christmas every year I asked for like a lot of movies. It was always VHS tapes. I collected hats, caps, whatever hats. I had like, back then they'd come out with like, and I'm sure they still do it to this day. They come out with a hat and the same exact like make and model of it, so to speak, color, all that stuff for each team. And I used to collect hats like that. So I've gone through phases. I think that's my addictive personality. I'm a like all-in kind of person, not really a toes in the water type of person. It's all in or all out, which can be a really good thing and a really, really bad thing at times. And I've always been like that. And so that addictive personality carries over to a lot of other things. And sometimes work, sometimes not destructive behaviors, sometimes movies, you know. So yeah, I was probably like, you know, I was in between 8 through 12 years old. I got into like PlayStation 2. That was my first system. I definitely was into that. I collected a lot of that stuff too, a lot of video games. And then when I got a little bit older in my teenage years, I ended up selling all of my PS2 games at a flea market, actually. But back onto the VHS. So I was collecting them, and then DVDs kind of started. I probably had around 1,000 VHS at the time, going into 2005, you know, when they stopped making VHS. A History of Violence was like one of the last ones, maybe the last one. But I started collecting DVD when that format became a thing, and my dad was also still collecting DVDs. So I had, you know, I was still living at home. I'm not even in high school at this time, you know what I mean? Because 2005, I was just like probably a freshman in high school at that time, right around that time. So I was collecting DVDs. The way I collected DVDs was funny. There used to be a video store, like a whatever. I don't know what it was called, but after a month of the movie being out, they would release it for sale for like $7.95 or $8. So me and my dad would each get a copy. We'd spend $16, each get one copy. At that time, the reason my dad and I both bought the same movies was because he figured he was going to keep collecting after I moved out of the house someday when I was 19, 20, 21, whatever age, right? So like we both wanted to have our own collection. So we always bought two of the same movie if it was something we both liked. So that was 2005-ish. I ended up moving in with my dad after the divorce. Parents got a divorce when I was a freshman in high school. I still had a bunch of VHS. I probably had around 1,200 at this time. And I had a bunch of DVDs. And then I think Blu-ray started at sometime in like 2009. So 2009, I was a senior in high school. I was still living at my dad's. I was living at my dad's apartment at the time. My sisters lived with my mom. And I took up his entire apartment in physical media. Now, he didn't mind, you know, but he ended up, I think he gave me his movies. He basically combined our collection. So I had a lot of doubles. I think we ended up selling some stuff. But the entire living room, he had a 2-bedroom apartment, and the entire living room and then my bedroom was filled in movies, just all movies. I think I had boxed up the VHS. But anyways, so by the time I was about 19, 20 years old, he met somebody and he was getting married. And so he was going to be getting rid of that apartment, moving in with her. So it was time for me to either go live back at home with my mom or get my own place. I was about 20 years old at the time. I decided to go get my own place. I was working like 70 hours a week. And I was 20 years old. So I was like, 2010? Moved to Joliet, not the best area, but it was cheap and affordable. And I moved in there. I had at the time probably like all the VHS I had. I ended up, when I moved into my apartment at 20 years old, I displayed all my VHS and all the DVDs. I don't think I was collecting Blu-ray quite yet. And if I was, it was very early on at that time. I didn't live at my apartment very long. My mom's like, all you do is work. Why don't you move back home? So I moved back home. I got into trouble because I left on the lease early, got into debt because of it, got a bill like 6 months later, you know. And I was young, so that was like my first time being in debt, first introduction into it. And I paid that off, moved back home, was living at home in the basement. It was like a finished basement, so I had my own bedroom down there. I had all my movies up for display, but what I did was, because of the VHS, so when I moved back at home, I could not bring the VHS with me. There was just no space for it. I had like 1,200, 1,300, all boxes. My dad's wife had a storage unit. I ended up putting all of my VHS in her storage unit in boxes, a bunch of boxes of them, put them in a storage unit. Never saw them again to this day. I ended up texting her a couple years ago, well after my dad divorced her. I ended up texting her and I was like, hey, Marianne, I was like, do you still by any chance have, like I had some VHS in a storage unit, blah, blah, blah. She's like, no, I got rid of everything that wasn't your dad's. Or yeah, I got rid of everything that was your dad's in there. So that was it. She ended up calling me and telling me that. And so I was without, that was like my first time talking to her too in like 6 years. And I just reached out because I was like, hey, I could use my VHS. But ended up putting those in a storage unit. I was, at this time, 21, 22, living at home in the basement at my mom's. I had all these DVDs, probably around 1,000, and probably around 300 Blu-ray at the time. At about 20 years old, I started going to church. I became a Christian, if you want to call it a born-again Christian. I started reading the Bible like a lot. And I was in church all the time, started thinking about going to school to be a pastor. I prayed a lot. And so I was praying one day, and I was like, what do I need to, what is still holding me back? Like, what's an idol in my life? And some people believe in prayer, some people don't. I do, obviously. And I really got this sense, this answer I kept getting, this pull, this feel, whatever you want to call it, to sell my movies. At first, it was like, okay, I was going to sell all my rated R movies, all the movies that I didn't think were good for a Christian to be living with. Which is really interesting. I'm going to go off topic slightly here, because I have so many conversations with different Christians and believers and stuff like that about that. I've read books where this one guy, he won't watch a PG-13 movie. Then you got people like Tony, one of my very good friends. He loves horror movies. He doesn't appreciate the nudity in the movies, but he loves the violence. And Tony doesn't like it. So I look at somebody like Tony, he's not tempted by it or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, he just enjoys watching the movies. He's entertained by them. He collects movies. He doesn't feel a conviction to get rid of them or anything like that. So anyways, this video isn't about attacking other people. It's my story. It's my journey with physical media. It's how I feel. Everybody collects differently, things like that. And so it's about me. I'm trying not to, I will not call anybody out. It's not, my place or anything like that. Everybody collects differently. Everybody has a unique collection that is unique to them. But anyway, so I ended up starting to get rid of like all my rated R movies. I was getting rid of American Pie, all these movies. So I was going through my collection. I had 1,200, 1,300 DVDs. Started to get rid of those, put them away in a box, whatever. I was like, okay, I'm going to get rid of these. And then it got to a point where I was like, I'm just going to get rid of my entire collection. I think I kept 2 movies. One was Forever Strong and the other one was God's Not Dead. And that was it. I ended up taking a bunch of boxes, and I mean a ton of boxes, to Disc Replay. And I was just getting cash back. I didn't need the money at the time. I wasn't like struggling or anything. It was more of a pull, like, hey, I want to do some different things in my life, and this is what I feel like I need to get rid of. So that was the conviction that I had in my life. And I had sold, this was like, I was a collector of video games too. And my goodness, I sold my collection of video games, bought them back, sold them, bought them back. I must have went through that like 3 or 4 times in my life. Selling the system, getting it back, selling the system. And that's kind of where, after doing that so many times, I was like, I'm never selling my stuff again. But anyways, I'm kind of all over the place. Hopefully this makes sense. But yeah, so I ended up going to Disc Replay, brought them in. And it was hard. It was hard because, once again, I didn't need to sell my movies. I didn't even necessarily want to. It was more of like, hey, I think these are an idol in my life. I felt like I was putting them above everything else in my life, my collection. Once again, this is me, not you. This is my story. I'm not calling anybody else out. So I go to Disc Replay, bring all the boxes, and they take half of them or something like that. They give me yada yada X amount of money, and they're like, here you go. And I remember wrestling with it, and I was like, I don't want to take these movies back. I don't want them. So I ended up giving them to Disc Replay free of charge. They didn't give me a dollar extra, I just didn't want them anymore. So I got rid of those. My entire collection gone. All the Blu-rays. I had like 2 movies left, like I said. All the Blu-rays gone. Every single DVD gone. Wiped clean. I think I had at least 1,500 DVD, I would say. It was probably a couple years later after that. I was probably in my mid-20s or something like that. I don't know if I had walked away from the church by then. I wasn't reading the Bible, all those things. And I don't know if I was or wasn't. I don't know. I've kind of strayed and came back to church and all that stuff, and now trying to find my way back again. But anyways, it was at Best Buy that the first movie that I remember collecting back again to get into collecting was the It Follows Steelbook. So somebody probably knows the year on that when that came out. I'm sure maybe if you're watching and you do know. But anyway, so it was that time. It was right around that time. And I slowly started to get into it. And that's kind of what got me into steel books. So I started collecting those more and more. And trying to think. I don't think I've sold. I think I've only grown my collection. I don't think I've sold since then. So I guess I've only sold my collection once in my life, but it was the entirety of it, and it was crazy. Now, back when I used to collecting, and I'm sure anybody who's my age or older understands, this was probably everybody watching the video. It was just about buying the movie. I had this conversation with my buddy Ben recently, a really good friend of mine, and we were talking about like collecting and the way it's gone is a market. It's like a collector's market now. And he was saying he cares about the movie. And I think it used to be like that. And it really feels like, I don't know when it changed. Obviously, you got boutique labels, all that stuff. Those weren't around back when I was collecting DVDs. But you do think about that stuff. And it's like, did we get away from caring about the movie as much as we do about the packaging? And I'm guilty of that, right? Like, hey, I got to have this $80 edition versus this $20 edition of it. Or I've got to have it because it has a slip cover. I have to have the slip cover. I'll pay $50 to get it with a slip versus $10 to get it without a slip. I look back on it now. I wish I never ever got into not collecting. I love collecting. I wish I never got into the numbered spines, the slip covers, the packaging, all that stuff. Because once you go down that rabbit hole, it can be hard to get away from it. It can be difficult. And as somebody who has an addictive personality, once I start something, I like to finish it and I like to complete it. And there's a lot of completists out there. So I'm not calling people out who collect everything. If you collect every single movie that comes out, that's okay. That's your thing, right? Everybody has different conviction levels. Everybody's in a different place. Some people sell their movie to get because they're done collecting. Some people sell their movies because they need the money. Some people sell because they're in debt. Some people, whatever, right? And some people collect everything because that's what they enjoy doing. And then you've got people like Allie and Anthony. And I almost look up to their way of collecting in a way. Because every time I talk to Allie and Anthony, they collect what they enjoy. I don't see Allie and Anthony collecting because it has a slip or 18 copies of the same movie or I got to get this collector's edition of it or it was okay. I didn't really like it, but I'm going to buy it anyways. They don't do that. Like when I talked to Ellie years ago, she was like, "Hey, my collection is very personal to me. Like it's her collection when it describes her really well." And I recently sold a lot of my movies off. I was in a rough place. I needed the money. That was a big reason why I was selling my movies. And at first I went through a lot of my collection, some of my collection. I was like, well, I don't need these. I could get rid of this stuff. So it was an easy decision to part ways with it. But then I looked through and there was so much more that I could get rid of. And now I'm sitting here, 2025, 34 years old now. And I'm like, I have goals of places I want to get to. Movies, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I've hurt a lot of people. I'll be making amends for a long time. I made a lot of mistakes when it came to finances. And I had the knowledge. I've taken a Dave Ramsey financial peace course. I've taken business courses, financial courses in college. I always had the knowledge. I just never applied it. Like, isn't there a saying like, what's knowledge without applying it? Probably. I don't know. But my point is, if people give you guidance, advice, right? Like, take it and apply it. I don't think I'm a stupid person. I'm not the smartest person in the world. I hated school. But I always made so many poor choices, even having the understanding and the knowledge. And that's with physical media. And this isn't, once again, this is just me. So people could be saying, well, I've done the same things you have. Right. And we're in different places, right? So like, you might be in a great place and love collecting everything. Look at Tony. He collects every almost every movie. He collects a lot of stuff, but he doesn't struggle, right? Like, I'm not going to go into Tony's business. That's his business. But like, he enjoys collecting. He doesn't feel a conviction to sell his collection. He likes it. I don't know every detail of how he feels about, collecting and stuff like that. But I have conversations with him about it, and conversations about Christianity and all that stuff, and like idols. And Tony's in a great place. He likes collecting. He's smart. He's a very, very, very smart person. And I look up to Tony in a lot of aspects. And he collects just like how I used to. And this isn't a dig on Tony at all. I adore the guy. For me, I realize, like, and it's getting better and better. But I realized, and I just wish I learned it sooner, that I can't keep collecting every single numbered spine. I don't need even 2 copies of the same movie. I don't need to upgrade everything to 4K. Just because it has a slipcover, I don't need it. Just because it's on sale, I don't need it. These are all things that I used to kind of live by, right? My Kino Lorber shelf, and I've sold a lot. I had stacked that shelf up all because of those Kino Lorber sales, and those Blu-rays with the slipcover were $9.99. I would buy movies I'd never heard of, I didn't know a thing about, but it had a slip and it was $10 on sale, so I bought it. I can own up to the mistakes I've made. And once again, other people might do this, and I'm not saying that it's a mistake. I'm saying this to me was a mistake, right? So like, you got to have your own set of convictions. You got to have your own responsibility, right? And for me, this was irresponsible spending, irresponsible collecting. A couple things that have really helped me understand with collecting and have gotten me to a better place is I muted on my Instagram stories, and I don't mind saying this because you got to do what you got to do. You got to do what's best for yourself. I got to a point where I couldn't keep seeing or watching everybody get subscriber mail, free stuff, and whatever you want to call it what it is. It's free stuff, right? It's free stuff being sent to you. It's subscriber mail. And these people, they put the work in, they do YouTube, they put it out, do videos every day, right? I'm not ragging on them, but you got to do what's best for you. And so what was best for me was to stop seeing every single day, 12 times a day on Instagram or throughout the course of a day, somebody posting that, hey, I got this in for free every single day. And it gets frustrating because you're trying to keep up and buy all these movies that you want, and you're spending on it when other people are getting it for free. And once again, they're doing what's best for them. If a studio were to send me movies, I'm not going to complain and say no. So I'm not ragging on them, but you got to do what's best for yourself. And that was what was best for me at that time. Even avoiding, like, not being on social media helps me to not want to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. And so I look at my collection. I probably had around 6,500 movies. I enjoyed it. I loved it. But one thing I've realized now is, even looking at my collection and coming in here, I want to get to places in my life, right? I have goals that I want to accomplish. I don't want to I just feel like I'm kind of stuck, and I've been going through the motions, and I'm in a better place than I was a couple months ago, but I'm not where I want to be at all. And I love physical media, but I love movies first. Always have. And I don't even have a TV. So all these right now, because my TV broke, all these movies and all this stuff, I haven't watched a single thing from my collection since like July, maybe. And that's okay. I've been watching movies, still not as much, but I still watch them. And my point is, I've realized, especially through that in this time, is that a couple things. It's helped me to turn looking at everything into a negative, like, oh, my TV's not working, I gotta get a new TV, whatever. Now I'm like, you know what, I'm grateful I have a laptop. Some people don't. I'm grateful that I can actually still watch movies. So I try to spin negatives into a positive. It's really helped with my outlook and keeping a more positive mindset. But watching movies on my laptop helps me realize, like, I don't need movies to watch movies. I don't need physical media to watch the movies that I love. And then also, like that conversation I had with my boy Ben, it's about the movie, right? Like I don't want it to be about this box and the shiny package and the poster inside of it and the artwork and there's a booklet with it and magnets and pins and a poster and whatever. Like, I want it to be about the movie. And I don't watch special features. I don't even look at the booklets inside of these Arrow video box sets. I don't even look at the posters. I don't do anything with them. I hang them up. Nothing. None of it. But I always felt like I needed it. I think there's a clear difference between need and want. I don't need any of this, to be honest with you. And I just don't want to. I hope to be in a relationship someday. I've been single for a while, and I'm wanting to put myself back out there again. And I don't want to bring. This is a pain in the ass to move, right? Like, it's a lot of stuff, and I don't. You gotta have your own convictions, and no matter what other people think, be yourself. I'm not worried about that. I like my collection, but I also realize, like, it is a pain. It is a pain in the butt to move. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to maintain, or not maintain, but it's a lot of money that you spent on it, and it takes up a lot of space. And I specifically got a 2-bedroom apartment, for example, for my movies, so I pay extra for that, which is fine. But I'm in here right now in the movie room, if you want to call it that, and I'm looking at the shelves still, and I'm going through it, right? And there's still so much stuff, and I thought I really went through it and I got rid of it. Well, a lot of it, but I'm looking at my collection, and here in particular, out there where the studio stuff is, I've seen majority, if not all, of those movies, and here I haven't seen the majority of them. This is like the opposite of out there. I look at it in here, there's my VSA titles over there, and I sold a good amount of them. I still haven't seen a single Vinegar Syndrome archive title. Not one. Not a single one. I have still like 10 or 11 of them. And the last time I went through them, I was like, okay, I'm going to keep these ones. So I kept these ones because I said to myself, these ones would look decent enough. Like, I would probably watch these at some time. It has now been years, and I've never once watched a single one of those VSA titles. But I keep telling myself I will, but I haven't. I've got, I'm going to try and maybe I'll go around the room and take my cell phone with me, and I could, show some of the stuff that I want to get rid of. But, yeah, I just, I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm like, I feel like at times it stresses you out because there's the way steel books come damaged, and you just never know what you're going to get with it. And you can't really nowadays, outside of Walmart, I suppose, you're really not getting to like go and grab your own copy and all this stuff. It's very expensive to keep up with. And I think, I don't want to say I did, but like, there's definitely people that do the keeping up with the Joneses, and I never want to do that, for one. But when I think of my collection, and I think of all these VSA titles and all this stuff, I'm like, who am I doing this for? Like, why do I still have this stuff if I don't watch it? And I think to myself, like, am I trying to impress people with my collection? Am I trying to be as cool as this person or that person? And so I've been feeling like that conviction more and more lately, and just wanting different things from life. And so, am I done collecting? I don't know. I don't think I'll sell my entire collection, but I think I'm going to start to go through the stuff and really start to part ways with a lot. I think I'll definitely keep the stuff that I love. But I think it's time that I go through and start getting rid of stuff that I have and haven't watched for 4, 5, 6 years. Like, what do I have it for? I just want to make responsible decisions. Like, I think I used to be in a position where, let's say I was married or something like that, and I'm single, so it's a little different, but I used to be at a point, not there right now at all. I barely buy movies, if ever, anymore. The last thing I bought was the Nightmare on Elm Street set, sitting on my floor. I haven't even opened it yet. I was so excited to get it in. I used to be at a point where if I was in a relationship and somebody said, "Can you stop buying movies?" The answer would have been no. The answer probably would have been, "Yeah, I can," but I wouldn't have. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be at that place. I don't want that mindset of like, I can't stop. So I just think it's time for me to go through a lot of this stuff, this VSA, and just almost like people say, come clean with it. Like, just get rid of it completely. And start cleaning up some of the space and the stuff like that on the shelf. So, that's, hopefully all that makes sense. That's kind of where I'm at in my journey with collecting, if you want to call it that. I've just been in so much thought lately about where I am, who I want to be, how just the things where I want to get to. And I think to myself with the movies, I'm just like, there's so much that sits here that I'll never watch, and I think it's time to part ways. Like, I don't want to be, I have my collection and think like, oh yeah, you don't watch your titles. Like, how many times have I posted a video back in the day and I was like, this, haven't seen, this, haven't seen, this, haven't seen. Joe and I were talking about that. Like, and I get so many comments still to this day from people going back and watching like my collection videos of, do you watch your movies? Have you seen any of the movies you own? Things like that. And it's like, it's true. I don't ever get offended by ever. That was something I never got offended because they're just speaking the truth. It's a real question. And it's actually, they're correct. I don't, for the most part. Like, I never watch much of the stuff in here. Not much. And yet I still sit here with these numbered spines, and there's only 2 numbered spines series that I would say I try and keep up with anymore, and I haven't bought a single title in the last year from either one of these lines, and that was Vestron. The last one I have is Blue Steel. I'm staring at it right there. I haven't bought a single title, not a steelbook, nothing from Lionsgate Limited. Not one. But there's still stuff that I think like I would enjoy getting. I would love to get the Descent Steelbook. I've always kind of wanted that on 4K. I think it's an awesome looking steelbook. I would love to get that. So there's still stuff out there. I didn't even get the Reindeer Games 4K from Kino Lorber yet. I still don't even own that. So yeah, I just think there's certain things I still feel like I could part ways with that I'm just like it. I think it's almost like ripping the Band-Aid off, so to speak, because there's just still a lot that it's like, what are you doing with this stuff? You gotta be smarter. So that's where I'm at. That was kind of my journey into collecting. I don't want to quit, but I really want to get to a point. Oh, I guess Paramount Presents as well, but that's a line that I'm so far behind on. There's so many titles in that line I haven't seen, and I feel like, yeah, I could just part ways with them. So I might go through and pull out the ones I'm not going to watch. I think I'm going to do that right after I finish doing this video. I think it's just time I do that. I think of the way Ellie collects and Anthony, and I'm sure there's other people, but I'm only, I'm going off of those two. I want my collection to be my collection, not, oh, I bought it because it has a numbered spine and a slipcover and a poster and a booklet and this and that. Like, I want the stuff in my collection to be stuff that I would say, yeah, I'd watch that. I'll watch that. I'll definitely watch it someday, or I'll watch it again. Not, I'll watch it and then I never do. If I have to be intentional. If I say I'll watch it, I have to be intentional with making sure I will watch it someday. Not I will watch it and never watch it. So that's where I'm at. I'm gonna take the night to go through and really start to, I think, get rid of some of this stuff and try and get to a point where, I'm in a better place and start working on myself. I was setting goals for a while, daily goals every single day. I was sending them to my buddy Deepak and my buddy, Nikki. And they were holding me accountable. I'd send them to them every single night at the end of the night, how I did. And they'd check in, we'd, just talk and stuff like that. And I stopped doing that. And then I was still doing it, and then I stopped myself. And when I was setting daily goals, it was really helping. I started to lose some weight. I was a lot more active. I've kind of gotten away from that. And I've got car issues, and I'm in a rental right now. But tomorrow I will be getting my dad's car. He's giving it to me. It's got a lot of miles on it, but I just really want to figure out who I want to be. And at 34 years old, not knowing that is frustrating. And where I was a couple months ago is just it's terrifying in a way. Because I never ever want to feel that again. I was in such a dark place and had some really dark thoughts and things that I never thought. And I just, I don't want to feel that again. And at 34, I'm like, you don't know who you are. You're trying to figure that out. And it's like, I got all this stuff around me, physical media, all this stuff, but it brings me temporary joy, but I don't feel like I'm at whole or peace, I guess. At the end of the day, I'm not to, this isn't a pity party or anything like this. Everybody's a different place in life, but I come home each night, I do the same thing, right? I work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. I come home, watch a movie, if I'm lucky, maybe TV shows, and rinse and repeat. And do I hate what I do? No. Do I have some shame in it? Yeah, at 34, it's not where I thought I'd be. But everybody's at a different place in life. I don't judge people for living at home. Or anything like that, but I think to myself, I'm like, I repeat the same stuff every day, and I'm just like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to be somebody, and I want to be happy, or at least find some kind of joy. And so it gets lonely. You get lonely living on your own, coming home, doing the same thing every single day, rinse and repeat, and I know other people are doing that as well. I want to get to a point where I could look at myself in the mirror and be proud of who I am and not hate the person I see staring back at me. And it's better than it was 3 months ago, but I'm not there. And I think selling some of my collection is like a part of figuring that out. And like just trying to figure out who I am and get to that point where I can go in the bathroom, look in the mirror and be like, okay, I don't hate this person. And it's better than it was 4 months ago. It helps losing weight because you look at yourself and you're like, well, like I'm Bob the Blob. And I hate that. Like I can't stand that. And it got to a point where it was just like, I got to do something about this. I've never been this heavy in my life. But when I quit personal training, I became this. And that shame too of like, I used to be a personal trainer and I let myself get to this point. And so there's a lot of shame that I deal with. There's a lot of, like I said, of making amends for the mistakes and the people I've harmed in my life. And so I have a lot of work to do in my own life. And I think that's, I didn't need to put out a YouTube video talking about it, but I'm always going to be honest. And if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it all in type of thing. And I think people appreciate that. You know, I get messages from like, well, you could look at the comment section, but that horror dude or other people that I don't necessarily talk to all the time or have on my streams. What's in a movie, I think. I don't know the name particularly. I know exactly who I'm trying to picture right now, but like they'll message me and just say they appreciate like the honesty and that I'm upfront and things like that. And you never know the difference you could make or what somebody's going through. So be careful about what you say. The tongue is a powerful thing. It can really encourage and build people up, but it can also destroy. And I think I did my fair share of that. I think I've done that. Now I'm upfront and I'm always going to be honest, but I also think sometimes I'm not the best with my words, and sometimes you got to tone it back and learn when to keep your mouth shut. And I haven't always done that. And I've hurt a lot of people from that. So I'm trying to be different and not get involved in I think that was something I got into last year, was all the the trauma and the negativity, and people said this about you and that and this and that, and it's just like, I don't want to do that. So anyways, that's all. I'm not going to go through the collection or anything. I'm just going to kind of do that on my own, but I do think it's time I really just kind of start and with a lot of it, especially in this room, because most of the stuff I don't watch. So I appreciate you listening. Seriously, if you're watching, I don't get the views, and that's okay. I've never been somebody who cared about the views. I don't do it for that. I do it for the people that actually watch, that actually give a shit. The ones who are there for every video. I don't care about how many subscribers I get or don't have. Once again, I care about the ones that I have a relationship with. Those are the ones that matter to me, the ones that I talk to. I appreciate people who watch. But, you know, I'm not for everybody. I'm not as exciting. And I'll be honest, I want to say one more thing. I kind of touched on this the other day in the live stream. I really, truly believe, how do I word this? You're only as good to people as like what you can provide for them or do for them. And I think I've had this conversation with people when it comes to like live streams or YouTube. I think numbers and views, I think money can change people. I think when they become so big, they can become somebody else or shut other people out in their life. And I think for me, when I stopped doing a lot of YouTube and I stopped like game nights and certain streams, right? I definitely lost certain people. I stopped talking to like a lot less people. And I've really realized just who the genuine people in my life are. And it's funny, I think to myself, like, if I sold all this stuff behind me, or a majority of it, who really sticks around? Do people really, do they almost have a relationship or a friendship with you because of your collection? So I definitely think about stuff like that a little bit. I think that the people in my life, like an Adam and Johnny, I think if I sold all my collection, I think they'd still talk to me. But, you know, you definitely lose friends. I think, you know, certain people enjoy you for what you can do for them. But I really liked getting to know the people that mattered to me, and the ones that I can count on, and the ones that I would seriously take a bullet for. You know, and those are the ones that I appreciate. So they know who they are. That's everything. That's all. I appreciate you watching. Yeah, thanks again, though. Seriously, it's nice to, it's almost like it's like therapy coming on here and talking, because I don't get nervous. like I used to, because you're just kind of having a conversation with yourself, and I really think that helps. I think that could help. It's why I used to like to journal and write, because I think that helps. It's like a therapy in a way. Movies can be a therapy. Running was a therapy for me. I never did therapy, so that's not my thing, not a fan. But I think talking helps. And it's just like, I'm just having a conversation with myself. I don't worry about what I say because it's all on replay. I don't watch it. People are just going to see it, so it is what it is. I'm not even going to edit this thing or nothing. Anyways, appreciate y'all. Have a good one. I'll see you on the next one. I'm sure there will be one at some point, maybe. I don't know. Who knows when? But yeah, we'll see. Later.